This is an amazing moment. If you have been listening to the show, I told you this was coming. Now I'm telling you it's here, and tomorrow I'll told you that I told you. Okay? This is the way the press works. All the fake scandals, all the fake hysteria, all the shouting over things that matter. Oh, Donald Trump pulled the Martin Luther King bust from the White House. Oh, no, he didn't. Never mind. You know, the correction that goes on page 112 after the scandal, so-called, goes on page 1. Donald Trump said that they're nice, great people in the Nazis. Never said it. It never happened. But the whole Russia collusion, that's the perfect one. The Russia collusion also never happened. Just a constant drumbeat of hysteria to build and build the tension and the sense that something is wrong, that something terrible has happened. And then finally, they get their hands on something that has some kind of emotional valence, some kind of emotional truth, even if they're not telling the truth about it. And they think, now we got them. This is a turning point. Everything that happens after this depends on how Donald Trump acts right now. And if you don't believe me, you got to go back to 2005. You probably don't remember Hurricane Katrina. Big deal, exactly the same thing. With George W. Bush, they had the same kind of scandals. Oh, he lied about, there being WMD in weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Well, he didn't lie. He used the same intelligence that everybody else had, and all the Democrats said the same thing. We need regime change. And when he went into Iraq to have regime change, suddenly it was like, oh, he lied. There are no WMDs. The Valerie Plame scandal, I won't go into it now, is utter nonsense, complete nonsense. Had a special prosecutor investigating that. Big deal. It was utter nonsense. But then Hurricane Katrina hit, okay? And just so you remember, Hurricane Katrina was a disaster in New Orleans and all along that southern coast. New Orleans was run by corrupt Democrats for like 100 years. Every now and again, a Republican would wander through, but mostly the term for governor and a mayor of New Orleans, governor of Louisiana, and mayor of New Orleans was a couple of years in office and then a couple of years in prison. They were absolutely corrupt, the Democrats, and they would funnel money, any federal money they got, they would spend on their own patronage, and they didn't put it into the levees where a lot of it was supposed to go. The storm hit, the levees broke, the city flooded. It was a disaster. People were, drowning. People were out of homeless. Terrible. Whose fault is this? After 100 years of Democrat governance, George W. Bush's. George W. Bush called the governor of Louisiana and said, you want help with this? And she said, no, it's fine. And then George W. Bush, everything that happened there was the fault of W and the Republicans, and the administration cracked. Here is a montage just to show you how they treated George W. Bush for, I guess he blew too hard and he caused the storm, and then the levees collapsed, which he had nothing to do with. And here's their reporting on it.
If the majority of the hardest hit victims of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans were white people, they would not have gone for days without food and water, forcing many to steal for mere survival. Their bodies would not have been left to float in putrid water. They would have been rescued and relocated a hell of a lot faster than this, period. We've repeatedly given tax cuts to the wealthiest and left our most vulnerable American citizens to basically fend for themselves. And once again, Bush finds the photo op. Some black folks to hug, some white men to bond with.
For years, we have cut our taxes, and let the infrastructure throughout the country go. And this is just the first of a number of other crumbling things that are going to happen to us.
Here. Did government neglect turn a natural disaster into a human catastrophe? And was it rooted in racism?
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
The president's image of compassion was shaky to begin with, even though he calls himself a compassionate conservative. Bill Clinton felt your pain. George Bush flew over it.
This is inarguably a failure of leadership from the top of the federal government.
How is this happening in the United States? And the other refrain was, had this been Nantucket, had this been Boston, Cleveland, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles, how many choppers would have...
And the administration cracked. They basically did not come out and defend themselves until the day Bush left office, when he finally pushed back, Now, Donald Trump is enforcing the laws at the border. And they're calling this, what do they call it, no tolerance or no, what is the word they use? Zero tolerance policy. Zero tolerance policy is enforcing the law. It has nothing to do with zero tolerance. It has nothing to do with zero. It has nothing to do with tolerance. It is just the rule of law. They are just enforcing the law. And we've got these people coming over. They use children to get through. Some of them are real families. And it is tragic. We're not throwing these children under the bus here. That's not the point. I'm just saying that all we're doing is enforcing the law at the border. Listen to the way they have picked up on this because they think they've got their Catrina moment going.
Well, the images suggest those of concentration camps, families being cut apart.
I know children are being marched away to showers. I know they're being marched away to showers. Or they're being told they are, just like the Nazis had said that they were taking people to showers and then they never came back.
Look, bottom line, Donald Trump increasingly looks like Hitler in Nazi Germany. These look like concentration camps.
It's rewarding breaking our immigration laws.
Unusual punishment, John.
I said this yesterday, but increasingly Donald Trump is turning this nation into Nazi Germany and turning these into concentration camps.
What's happening is very American in that this is how the country was founded. This is what happened 76 years ago to Japanese Americans in internment camps.
Now, look, I know we're not Nazi Germany, all right? But there is a commonality there.
I knew it would be controversial, but I felt a warning flare was necessary.
You're so concerned about what's going on.
Yeah.
And all of us are so concerned. We see these heartbreaking images, and it's so awful.
So this is causing panic on the right. And you see the Wall Street Journal, these people who don't understand what's at stake, who don't understand that the playbook, this is not about the children at the border. It's not about the children at the border. We can fix that. That needs to be fixed, and we can fix it. It's not about that. It is about undermining the administration. And it's about seizing this moment. This is what everything they've done, all the lies they've told, all the panic they've created, all the disaster scenarios that didn't pan out. This is what they were waiting for. I told you they were going to do this, and they're doing it. And we watch the right. Bill O'Reilly today, and, I love Bill O'Reilly. I'm not attacking him personally, but he sends out a tweet. Well, the administration is right to enforce the law, but they can't stand up against these crying children. They'll be destroyed, and the Wall Street Journal keeps saying this new Trump policy. It's not a new Trump policy to separate children from their parents. That's what they want you to think. It's a new Trump policy to enforce the law. They have to separate the children when they put the parents in prison, when they incarcerate them. They have to separate the children. That's what they're doing. So they're just following the law. Now let's pause here for a minute to talk about why this matters. Why, we keep using this phrase, the rule of law, and it sounds heartless. It sounds mean. It sounds like I don't care about these children, and I do, and I'll get to that in a minute. Here's why the rule of law matters. This is a cell phone. This is a smartphone, okay? I'm holding it up if you're listening. This is a smartphone. It is a tool. It's a tool for doing something. With it, I can get on the internet. I can talk to people. I can do research. I can do anything I want with this amazing instrument. What if Nancy Pelosi came along and said, oh my God, the children are suffering because Klavan has this phone? Get rid of the phone. We'll still be able to talk to each other. We'll still, it's about heart. It's about feeling. It's about compassion. It's about Jesus. Get rid of the phone and we'll still be able to talk to each other. Well, of course, that's nonsense. That's a tool. That's a tool for communicating. Without that tool, I'm just shouting at people, right? Without that tool, I can't get on the internet. The law is a tool in this country for equality and freedom. The rule of law is our tool for equality and freedom. You cannot throw it away and have your equality and your freedom any more than you can throw away that phone and still get online in the palm of your hand, okay? Here's how it works. I'll use LeBron James because I know it drives the left mad whenever I use LeBron James. LeBron James is privileged. He has stuff I don't have. I have exactly the same amount of desire and drive to be a pro basketball player that he does, but he got born with the talent. He got lucky, so he's got millions more dollars than I have. He plays sports. He's famous. He's got all this stuff that I don't have. If LeBron James does something really bad, beats up somebody, say, if I beat up somebody, we go before a judge. The rule of law is supposed to be the same for both of us. That's the way that we are equal. That is the way we are equal, and it's the only way that equality can be preserved. Once you start to say, well, LeBron James, I kind of dig him. I watched his games, and Klavan, I don't know who he is, so let's put Klavan in jail. But, I use some heart. Let's have some compassion. Once the rule of law falls apart, we're no longer equal. Now LeBron James's money, his luck, his privilege overrides me and my fair treatment. Only by obeying the rule of law do we have equality. What about freedom? Freedom is the same thing, right? You're free if the law We elect representatives. Our representatives make the law. These guys represent us. That's why they're called representatives. They represent us. So they go and they make the law on our behalf, right? If that law is just thrown aside, is disobeyed because somebody at MSNBC thinks it's not nice, then we have lost our power through our representatives. When Barack Obama said, I'm not going to support the Defense of Marriage Act, we're simply not going to prosecute people who violate the Defense of Marriage Act, he became king. He's king now. But the laws that my representatives passed don't matter anymore. You don't like the Defense of Marriage Act? Override it, veto it, have your representatives go to Congress, get rid of it, get rid of the law. That's how you do it. That's how it works. If they're not doing it, you are not free. If they're not enforcing the law, so it's hilarious. It's hilarious to see the people who enforce the law saying, what do you do? This is incredible you're enforcing these laws. But how can you do that? Change the law. It's up to you. So if you want to see whether these guys are serious, because they do not want to help these children. They just want this moment. They just want the Hurricane Katrina moment. Ted Cruz came out and he said, you're right. This is terrible. Here's a law that we can pass. Here's Ted Cruz.
All of us who are seeing these images of children being pulled away from moms and dads in tears, we're horrified. This has to stop. I am this week introducing legislation, the Protect Kids and Parents Act, that will mandate that kids must stay with their parents, and it will also expedite the proceeding.
If the Democrats vote for this, I will eat my shirt, okay? I'm telling you. He wants to double the number of federal immigration judges, authorize new temporary shelters with accommodations to keep families together, mandate that illegal immigrant families must be kept together, absent aggravated criminal conduct, provide for expedited processing and review of asylum cases. Those are the cases that take so long and why the children have to be taken away according to court ruling, and it can only be fixed through the legislature. What the Democrats want, what the left wants, what the press wants, aside from undermining this administration, is they just say, oh, well, let the people go into the country. They'll come back when we need them. Then when we want to deport them, they'll just report in for deportation. They want the open borders because they know that's how their voters get in. They are not trying to solve the problem. You know, when we were doing that Father's Day show with the God King, Jeremy Boring and Ben and Knowles, Ben had this moment where he said one of the things he does to keep peace with his wife is when she starts to talk to him, he stops her and he says, is this one of these things where I just listen to your problems, or is this one of these conversations where I'm supposed to solve your problems? So I went home and my wife said to me, I liked what Ben said there. I liked that Ben said, and I said, forget it. Forget it. When you tell me your problems, I am going to solve your problems. I do not have a mode of just listening to your problems. What do you want to do with your problems if not solve them? You want to frame them? You know, I love women. I do. I love talking to them. I love listening to them. However, just because a person happens to be a woman, that doesn't mean the crazy thing that she's saying isn't crazy. You know, when a woman says to you, I don't want you to solve my problem. I just want you to listen to my problem. If I have the capacity to solve it, I want to solve it. That is what Ted Cruz is doing. And if the Democrats come back and say, oh, no, you know, we don't want to actually pass any laws. We don't want to build a wall. We don't want to defend our borders. We just want to sit here and talk about how you're abusing the children. You will know that this is what I say it is. It is what they are hoping will be a Katrina moment. Now, here is the difference. Trump is standing up to them. And I want to see how long he can do this, despite the, cries from the right-wing press. Oh, you'll never withstand this blow. You'll never withstand the emotional thing. What about the children crying and all this stuff? Trump is standing up to him. He made a speech, which I got to say, listen, you know how I feel about Trump. I like a lot of the stuff he's done. I don't always admire him as a person. I admired him yesterday. I really did. Check out cut number 6. This is Trump striking back against the Democrats.
I'll say it very straight. Immigration is the fault and all of the problems that we're having, because we cannot get them to sign legislation. We cannot get them even to the negotiating table. And I say it's very strongly the Democrats' fault. They're they're really obstructionist, and they are obstructing. The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. Won't be. You look at what's happening in Europe, you look at what's happening in other places. We can't allow that to happen to the United States, not on my watch. For the rest of the world, you look at everything that's taking place, pick up your newspapers this morning, and you see. We want safety and we want security for our country. If the Democrats would sit down instead of obstructing, we could have something done very quickly.
See, you can say that's playing politics, but it's playing politics back. It is fighting back. It is what the Bush administration did not do. Karl Rove has talked about this. Karl Rove, W's advisor, he said we should have fought back. We didn't realize how much they hated us. We didn't realize they weren't going to give us a fair break. We should have fought back. Trump knows, and he gets it, and it's driving them mad. And I'm telling you, the situation with the children can be fixed. It won't be fixed because the Democrats do not want it fixed. The press does not want it fixed. This is what they want. What is happening right now is what they want. And, you know, Kirstjen Nielsen, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, who's in charge of this stuff, she came out and made the most rational arguments where she said it's cowardly for the people who pass the laws to tell us not to obey the law.
Congress and the courts created this problem, and Congress alone can fix it. Until then, we will enforce every law we have on the books to defend the sovereignty and security of the United States. Those who criticize the enforcement of our laws have offered only one countermeasure: open borders, the quick release of all illegal alien families, and the decision not to enforce our laws. This policy would be disastrous. Its prime beneficiaries would be the smuggling organizations themselves, and the prime victims would be the children who would be plunged into the smuggling machines and gang recruitment on the trip north. There's a lot of misinformation about what DHS is and is not doing as it relates to families at the border, and I want to correct the record. Here are the facts. First, this administration did not create a policy of separating families at the border. We have a statutory responsibility that we take seriously to protect alien children from human smuggling, trafficking, and other criminal actions while enforcing our immigration laws.
It's all about this. I mean, what she just said is completely inarguable. You know, I love that thing with Jon Stewart saying it's inarguable, and then he repeats it. This is like Twitter. People think on Twitter, if you say something over and over in capital letters, that somehow magically becomes true. That was like Jon Stewart. It's inarguable. It's inarguable. It's inarguable. Except it's not true. It's not true, so you can argue about it. You know, this is, we quoted Jazz Shaw at Hot Air. He's doing a great job. He's no big Trump supporter or anything like this. The New York Times, a former newspaper, one of the other things that they're panicking about, so much at the Trump administration, is Scott Pruitt at the EPA, right? He's dialing back these intrusive, illegal, unconstitutional regulations that the EPA uses to control, like, how long you run the water in your bath, basically. They come over and say, oh, that bath is a public waterway, and we're going to, regulate that. That was the Obama administration's policy. And Pruitt has been dialing this back and holding the EPA accountable. It is a completely unaccountable, lawless organization, and he's holding it back. So they've had one pretend scandal after another with Scott Pruitt. The New York Times runs on the front page, "For Pruitt aides, the boss's personal life was part of the job. Senior staff members at the Environmental Protection Agency frequently felt pressured by Scott Pruitt to help in personal matters to obtain special favors for his family," according to interviews with 4 current and former EPA officials. He says at least 3 EPA staff members were dispatched to help Mr. Pruitt's daughter, McKenna, obtain a summer internship at the White House, the current and former staff members said. That's page 1. The next day, page A17, and you know those little correction boxes they have? They have a little correction box. An article on Saturday about senior staff members at the Environmental Protection Agency who said they frequently felt pressured by Scott Pruitt to help in non-work matters included an item that erroneously described Mr. Pruitt's use of his position for personal matters. While a Virginia lawmaker, William Howell, said he wrote a letter of recommendation to the University of Virginia Law School on behalf of Mr. Pruitt's daughter, he actually wrote it while Mr. Pruitt was the Attorney General of Oklahoma. This is on page A17. In other words, the entire thing didn't happen. It was a non-existent thing. But if they keep hammering him and then put the apology like down on A17 where nobody ever sees it, it creates this this aura of hysteria, this aura of wrongdoing. And then one day, because we all make mistakes, Pruitt will make a mistake. He will do something that they can nail him on, even if it's unfair. And they'll say, yes, but this is just part of the string of hysteria that we created. This is part of the string of corruption. That's what they're doing to Trump now on the border. he should stand tall. He should fight him back. He should, get his people out there. When Kirsten Nielsen was making that speech, when she was talking to the press, one of the reporters was playing an audio of children crying. I mean, that about says it, doesn't it? If children cry, the rule of law goes out the window. If the rule of law goes out the window, so does your freedom, so does your equality. Trump is doing the right thing. The law should be fixed. Ted Cruz is right. They should fix it so they can enforce the law and keep families together where possible. That's what they should do. But that's not what the Democrats want. That's not what the press wants. They just want this Katrina moment.